So people are talking about a financial economic crash. A crash that's going to happen in North America and a crash that's going to happen economically across the world. That's going to devalue our dollars and make our purchasing power near non-existence, meaning we won't be able to buy goods such as food and clothing anymore in the near future. Um, Capitalism, what it's taught me as I grew up, is that to have faith. Faith in the fact that the system that's around me, that provides for my needs, will always be there. Never really questioned, growing up, about the system. Always knew there was Provigo, always knew there was an IGA, always knew there were grocery stores that would meet my need if I was hungry. Always knew there was clothing stores that would meet my need when I needed clothing. Always knew there were shoe stores that would meet my need when I needed shoes. So I could never contemplate or even fathom or think of the fact that what if this system wasn't around me anymore? What if it was to collapse and all these things that had met my needs in the past was no longer there? I really had to accept the fact and begin to realize that what the system had did to me, what capitalism had produced in me, was a man that would have been unable to sustain his own life. Because my life was being sustained by those things around me. My duties in this system was to work and gather together money or debt fiat currency, but to actually sustain my life, it was this currency exchanged for goods that helped me to survive. For example, I don't clean or raise my own meat. I do my own vegetables, but the majority of us, we don't have our own gardens and we don't produce our own food. We buy our own food. The majority of us, we don't produce our own clothing. We don't even know how to make our own clothing. We go down to the store and we buy the latest clothing, or some of us are wise about it and we don't go and spend a whole bunch of money on clothing, but nevertheless, we don't make our own clothing. We don't make our own soaps, we don't make our own shampoos. All of these things that are essential to keep a man alive, in health, and in good strength, we don't know how to do anymore. The system has done it for us. So if there would ever be an economic collapse where money was worthless and the banks were closed and there was no stores around us, a lot of us wouldn't be able to survive. A lot of us wouldn't be able to handle what would happen, just because no one's taught us and we're not ready. There was to be an economic collapse and people began suffering because of lack of their needs being provided for, or being able to get stuff that would provide for their needs. People are more willing to then accept things that they wouldn't accept prior to their suffering. For example, policies and laws and regulations that the government would try and pass when people are not suffering, they're more likely to fight and raise a voice against. However, if people were made or put into a position of extreme suffering, then policies and regulations would be a lot easier to pass or enforce. So you have to be careful about what's going on all around us, with what's happening all across the world right now. Because if there was an economic collapse as it stands now, a lot of people would begin to suffer. Sometimes the ignorant refuse to believe that this system that's all around us has actually been really created to hurt us and not to bless us. All this system does is take from us. Example, we use SAEQ, the videos that you've seen. A man or a woman has a right to travel, whether it's in a vehicle, walking on a bicycle, in a plane, whatever you choose, you have a right to travel. However, through the creation of civil society, they take away your right to travel as a man and return it to you as a legal person and make you pay money for this right. Now, if you look, for example, if you want to go hunting, well, you have to get a hunting card and a card for your firearms and so forth. Again, they take away your right as a man and make you pay for it back as a juridical personality for money. Everything this society is built upon is just built upon for money. A lot of the commercial industry or the commerce that you see going on, all this shopping and buying stuff and building bigger stores and opening new malls and opening new Walmarts and all this stuff that's going on, this is all consumer debt-based credit. It's only because banks have been issuing credit to people, which is another situation concerning what credit is, but it's only because the banks have been issuing credit to people that people have been able to go and consume and buy and purchase and consume and live that lifestyle. There was no real money, there was no real value to what you've been purchasing. We don't have anything to back up all that we've been purchasing, except for the fact that a lot of us, individuals and families, have gotten credit cards and mortgages and loans and taken that and bought material goods, thinking that that would bring us happiness and that would generate fun or a peaceful time in life, which it never does. I like to say this to people who are seeking to be millionaires and have a really deep love for money and do nothing but chase after money. When and if an economic collapse does happen, do you realize that the money that you have, it won't even be good for you to wipe your butt with, because it'll be so full of diseases and germs that you couldn't even use it for toilet paper? Money has no value itself. The paper money, it only has value because people believe it has value. And therefore, because people believe it has value and are willing to accept that it has value, then you can exchange it for goods. The only time money is valuable is when you take that money that you hold in your pocket or that you hold in your bank account and you change that money and you change that debt instrument for something that is valuable to your life. Whether it be soap to wash yourself, food to eat, gas for your car, clothing for your back, then now has money become something that has been valuable for you. But apart from it being able to be traded for something, money is useless. You can't eat it, and you can't even clean your house with it. So if and when a financial collapse happens, it can get really, really, really bad. Really bad, just like you've seen in Hollywood movies. Now, was it a determined situation that they were trying to show us because they knew what was coming in the future? Who knows? Anybody's guess is as good as mine. However, if you begin to sit down and think about how desperate people will get when the system around us collapse, it's not a good time that it will be. I don't want to make any recommendations about what you should or shouldn't be doing. However, if it was to happen where there was a bank run and the banks closed and there was no money and money became worthless, think about how that would impact the society. Think about how that would impact you directly and what you would need to do or what you would do. Because I personally believe that there is a crash coming, and I personally believe that this crash will probably be for a year or two of a period of time, meaning when it starts it'll stay down for a couple of years, and then slowly they're going to restart the North American Union, and slowly they're going to restart a worldwide currency that'll be accepted in all countries for the exchange of commerce or for the exchange of goods. However, during the time that this system is erected, this new system gets to be erected and starts, there's going to be people who suffer and people who die because they weren't prepared. Because rather than, and I don't mean to be rude, but rather than realize what was going on and rather than prepare for what was going to happen, they were caught up in a life of consumerism. They were caught up in a life motivated by Hollywood to just go and buy material goods and have fun and don't worry about it, because the system will always be around you and the system will always be there to help you and to fulfill your needs. And that was the biggest lie that you could have ever swallowed, because no system going back into history has ever stayed around. No system, no country, no power has ever, if you will, endured the test of time. Kingdoms come and kingdoms go, and you may think that you're living in an age that this kingdom is not going to fall and everything around you will be okay. So even if this Canada or this America falls, it won't affect you, it'll happen in the future. That's foolish, because my heart, after I look around, says, be careful, because we're standing on the edge of a great change. And a lot of us, and I'm sorry to say a majority of us, don't even realize the consequences of the change that are coming. When you're driving around in your latest BMW, with the latest cell phone or iPod, or whatever technology it is, but you realize in a day from now, you'll have no more food to put in your belly. Or in a day from now, you won't be able to have heat in your house to escape the winter that comes here in Canada. My friend, you're going to have many, many, many regrets. And you don't have to have many regrets. If you wake up and see the signs of the time all around us, then you can prepare. If not, then the consequences are on your own back. Government won't be here to help us. Religious organizations, they won't be here to help us. When the economic crash happens, it will be worse than the Great Depression that happened in 1930. Because in the 1930s there was much more farmland than there is right now in North America. And there was much more people who knew how to take care of themselves, that were not relying on a system that had been created, that was providing for their needs. So although yes, the system of the present day in the 1930s did fall down and fall apart, people were not relying so heavily on that system. Today, this system is all around us. It is what supports a man, not the opposite way around. And man and women need to know, need to grow, and need to understand how to sustain your life. I like to say this to people, well, just sit there and say, okay, what if everything around me shut down? My money's worthless. There's no more grocery stores. How would I survive? And the feeling, if you're being honest with yourself, the feeling that you get, it's, well, you'll understand when you think it, but you begin to realize how that this system really programmed you to make you useless to sustain your own life, to make you useless to provide for your own self. It's pretty sad. And they did it in deception, never even realizing that that's exactly what they were trying to do to men and women.